Okay, next session will be academic training session. And we have Professor Lo Hong here, who is the head of, scheme head of Master of Design from School of Design, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Welcome, Professor Lo Hong.
Many thanks, Stephen, for the introduction. I wish I was part of the previous discussion. There was a lot of interesting comments that I would love to take part of it. My role is not to take part of this discussion, but is more to introduce you the School of Design and the master's program that we currently offer at the school. So just let's go through a little bit where the school is located, what the school is, and what it offers within the large perspective. So let's just look at it. And the School of Design, Polytechnic University, is part of a much larger complex, a much larger system than just one school. It's located within a large campus, really at the center of the city, and that includes 7 faculties. So it's basically between hospitality, tourism, management, business, engineering, and School of Design is one of those faculty. And what is interesting is that basically it's not isolated and continuously collaborate between those faculties. Also, it's located within the campus with a kind of particular situation because not only it's a school within a university, but it's a school that has its own building that probably some of you have seen around published, done by the architect Zaha did. So pretty kind of boutique hotel type of school, extremely nicely designed and tailor-made for our need. The School of Design is also an international platform where there are a lot of faculties coming from multiple continents, and also, I mean, dedicated in some ways to a very, very large group of students. We're talking about 1,100 students, and among them 200 are in postgraduate programs. And it goes from, obviously, from bachelor degree to PhD degree. So that's really an important development. So the school is also within the university, but is also within global and regional context. It's located, and Stephen already mentioned that early on, within the Greater Bay Area, the densest conurbation in the world today, with one of the largest economy in the world, in terms of GDP per capita in a very, very dense region. But also it's a delta, it's a place that a lot is happening. It's an entry point to China. So it's a really important local and regional context. The school itself makes the best of it, and in terms of what it offers, in terms of industry that it connects with, but also in terms of challenges. Living in a very dense urban context create challenges, and we know that the challenges that we are talking about, some of them have been discussed in the previous session, is global challenges, wicked and entangled problems of climate change, pollutions, demography, and so on. So basically the school is embarked within this, those logic and try to address this as much as it can, with an eye constantly focusing on what's happening in China, also in terms of development. China in the last 30 years has developed like no other economy in the world has and in history has ever done, and continue to develop. And I think that the innovation that come from this part of the world is quite unique and has a lot to develop further. In this context, I mean, the campus as well as the local and regional context, the School of Design tried to address as much as possible those issues by offering programs and specialism to basically tackle those issues. So currently, the Master of Design has 5 different specialisms that they all join in a common shared elective. So there are entities that could exist and you're graduating from one of the specialism, but then there is a lot of interaction. And that is one of the major characteristic of the School of Design and the master's program is inter and multidisciplinarity approach that we try to maintain. So just to go a little bit in detail, and obviously that will only cover a fraction of what we offer, but basically within those 5 different specialisms, I will talk a little bit about them. Design strategy is the starting specialism that really address design as a set of opportunity from an anthropocentric, but also from a biocentric perspective. Obviously, looking at how designers are not only developing solutions, but also generating opportunities. So this is a part-time program. It can be also done in full-time for 2 years. And this is really with an academic focus, more reflective, having a holistic and synthetic perspective on design. The other program, specialism, is design practice that is really hands-on. It's a full-time 1-year studio that really try to look at how design or designers address issues, again, wicked and tangled issue that deal with product design, but product design from a supply chain perspective, service design, and so on. So this is really addressing design from a practical perspective. The next one is interaction design that basically address the issue between relationship between human beings, how they communicate, but also how human and machine interact, and so on. And then the fourth one is urban environments design. We are in the context, as I mentioned early on, the Greater Bay Area, where the largest conurbation, one of the largest conurbation in the world. So basically, the urban context is an important context. How do we live in this urban context? How do we produce? How do we consume? What type of life do we have? How do we maintain this quality of life? All those are questions that we address in this program. Again, this is a 1.5-year full-time hands-on program. And the last addition to the program is international design and business management, which is more focusing on how design is not isolated, but design entertains a lot of relationship with business and engineering, and basically the relation among those 3 generate new equations, and that's basically the principle and the philosophy of this program. This is really a very short overview of what we're offering. Obviously, we can spend more time to discuss more in detail everyone, but maybe during the conversation we will have possibilities. Thank you.
Okay, next, let's welcome Mr. Grant Linscott to introduce the program at the Sustainable Design School from France.
Okay, so as I stated during the first talk, I'm currently the academic director for the Sustainable Design School in Nice. And we're a fairly young school. We are trying out extremely progressive pedagogies that go beyond traditional design application. I did allude a little bit to that in my talk earlier concerning design ontology. For instance, we try and encourage the growth of the individual as well as the design skills. And we tend to think this is actually fundamental in the development of this aspect of empathy, communication, emotional intelligence. So we will do classes, for instance, in improv theatre, which is designed actually to release our students from the internal conversations that they have, and to allow them to express themselves. And you know, a lot of that is linked to an understanding of what the nature of creativity is and where that comes from. Very much an internal posture of being creative as opposed to doing creativity. And so the school is part of the University of the Côte d'Azur, and the University of the Côte d'Azur is in Nice, and there's 14 founding schools of various backgrounds, both scientific and arts backgrounds and research. And these schools come together and actually do quite a lot of contribution and do a sense of cross-pollination between what we teach, our subject matter, our domains, and also our students. Very much an exchange for an educational sense, trying to actually educate people to be good humans, to be good people, to be developed people. It's not just specifically focused on design. Sorry, just grab the microphone there. So we currently have, in essence, 3 programs. They tend to run concurrently. So we have an undergraduate program in sustainable innovation that takes us to the bachelor level. It's 3 years in English. From there, you can take on a further 2 years to reach master level, which is a certified RNCP level 7 certificate in designer in sustainable innovation. Midway through that master's, there is the possibility to actually diversify slightly and do an MSc, a Master of Science in Entrepreneurship and Sustainable Design. And that is through a partner school, Schema Business School, which is a triple accredited business school. And again, as other people have talked about, it's very much about this idea of the cross-pollination of design into business, into strategy. Obviously, all the studies are closely linked to a lot of grounding in sustainability. We're a design school. We obviously teach design as everyone does. But we, in essence, try to put into the DNA of our students the understanding of what sustainability is and how to actually react as a leader and a change maker in the world. And that's what we feel is our contribution to give back to society from this design school. Completion of the master, you can then go on to do a PhD. There is the thesis and doctoral research. Again, it's very much about strategic sustainable innovation. And this is 3 years in English, and it's done in partnership with the Open University in the UK, in United Kingdom. And obviously, we're all fully aware of the nature of design. Again, it's a little bit in development of what I was talking about this morning. We teach an approach that endeavors to develop all of the different facets of being a designer. In essence, the beginning is very much hands-on. It will be practitioner based. Obviously, traditional modules in sketching, prototyping, work in the workshop. Moving onwards into more of a research-based applied design research methods, bringing in ethnography, sociology. We obviously do a lot of development regarding as a taught us one of the sense making, the imagination, the creativity, understanding the emotional responses. A lot of the research coming out of the Netherlands, where we tend to use a lot of that research on the wow effect. And a lot of these tools and understanding are used in a large amount of different domains. We don't go for a separation between product, service, and experience. We have multiple projects that run throughout the year, and we touch on each one of these subjects in essence to give a graduate a full grounding of what it is to be a designer, to be a creative, to be somebody who understands research, understands human beings, and how to react in the business world. And I think design education has been moving in this way for quite some time. You know, the traditional product design, or perhaps industrial design, while it's still of benefit, there is perhaps a greater emphasis on a designer who can achieve creative responses in a global setting, in a global way, that would consider perhaps the product in the service, the nature of the experience with interaction with the business offerings, and then also a business plan at the end. And this is what we push all our students to do over the 5 years of the initial program. And one of the things that we do really very, very well is we're developing individual students through coaching, through studying, but we also run as quite a strong backbone a lot of partnership projects. And these run pretty much for a full semester. And what we will do is bring together 15 or 20 students to actually work on a project that comes from industry. So these are some of the partners that we've done work for, and it's still very much of an educational basis. You know, we don't consider ourselves to be a design consultancy, but there is a really good aspect of ensuring a professionalism within the students. They know that this is in essence a fictitious client that comes with a genuine contribution to these partners. And it does change the dynamic of the work in the school. The other thing is that these partnership projects, as I said, will run for a semester, but they will also take in multiple different years of the school. And that is a really, really fantastic way to see the transmission of education, the transmission of development between, for instance, a 4th or a 5th year and a 1st year. And in essence, it's exponential, the educational output for that reason. I did mention, obviously, one of the backbones that we teach is based upon the Sustainable Development Goals, and these 17 goals, obviously published by the United Nations. I mentioned earlier in the previous presentation, design can be considered to be understanding and addressing human need, and the close parallels between that posture and how to improve our society, our environment, our economy, the triple bottom line, is actually presented very closely in the 17 SDGs, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And so what it means that as designers, as opposed to saying we're going to design a product or a service, we can actually take a point of reference as one of these development goals or multiple development goals and try and navigate a project using that posture as a guide through the research and through the creativity. And I've got a little example at the end I can show you. As I'm sure everyone here is, we strongly believe in a sense of international education. We do a lot of exchanges with partner schools, both at a professor level and at a student level. And so we do many exchanges, and we were conscious that it's very much a part of someone's internal development, their personal development, and the maturity, their outlook, their understanding of different cultures, different societies, how to observe in a new place. Strongly hold this to be true. Now, this is a little example of a project I can show you very quickly. Perhaps got a minute or two left. So I actually, this is the supports are in French. I did, I don't know if I mentioned, but the 5 years of studies and then also the 3 years of PhD are actually taught in English. All of the professors are bilingual, and we allow for students to actually finish their work in French if it's of ease to them, but it's of zero barrier whether it is in French or in English. So this is a project that is interesting in that it presents this idea of design making a contribution to areas that can be considered new, innovation, social innovation. So the project is about domestic violence, and so 2 of our students undertook this project for a year at the end of their studies and immersed themselves in a lot of the data and the understanding, and tried to navigate, obviously, the very complex domain, sometimes quite hidden, of domestic violence. And here we see them correlating some of this idea of the data that I was talking about, the data and the benchmarking of what the information they can find, also including moving on to key actors or personas, if you like, people that they're interviewing, to, in essence, gain a true understanding of what domestic violence is at a human level. And this is very much the immersion. Our students become very much expert in their studies in this domain. It's really wonderful to see. As professors, you're in essence a guide, but you're certainly not the knowledgeable one. The students become the knowledgeable actors, and it's lovely to get a sense of coaching somebody in their outlook and their research and then their presentations about how they will actually communicate projects. So they pushed for a design solution which was based using some of the theories of nudge, and it was, in essence, how to influence actors and how to ensure that what is the perception of the reality and also the perception of fiction regarding domestic violence. And they came up with, in essence, an interactive card game that was designed to provoke the very human essence of the people who are perhaps people on the receiving end of domestic violence, but also people who are giving out domestic violence, to, in essence, give an education, to give a sense of human connection. Obviously, the project doesn't stop with a simple solution of a card deck. It's a much larger project that brings together other aspects of design, including the communication aspects, including websites, sorry, other way around, websites and then communications. This was actually moving forward to be a full business plan for a startup that was going to embark on social change and social innovation, using this project as the grounding force. And so here you see a couple of examples of the SDGs, and as I've said, they become, in essence, pillars for the project, and a sort of guiding understanding of what the value is for the human being at the end, and in essence all the way through to business models and how can we actually take this through to reality. And there you go. I appreciate your attention. Any questions, please, obviously, please do ask at the end.
Thank you very much, Christian. Next, we welcome Mr. Christian Goulerin back to introduce the program at l'École du Design Nantes Atlantique from France.
I represent l'École Nantes Atlantique. Nantes is a town in the west of France. It's 2-hour train from Paris. And we have been created 30 years ago, and it was formerly applied art school, and then it's a fully school of design. The philosophy of the school and the education is based on in fact, the rate of employment as designer at the end after the programs. This is really the philosophy. We have many connection with the economical areas to facilitate, to ease the fact to find a job as designer in the better conditions, the best conditions, sorry. So 1,600 students, 38 nationalities, and 200 Master of Design graduates in 2019, 350 teachers and main campus in Nantes, most creative city in western of France. And we have some studios in China, India, Brazil, and in Canada, in Montreal. And I will explain how we match with those studios and how we have created them. So it's a private nonprofit, and we have master programs awarded by the Ministry of Education, of Higher Education. We have we operate the National Diplôme National des Métiers d'Art, NMAD, National Diploma in Fine Arts, Crafts and Design, and we are at the moment the only private school who can operate those type of diplomas. We are associated to the University of Nantes, and we have many partnership with their research labs of the University of Nantes. And we are member of the Conférence des Grandes Écoles, which gathers the most famous, most recognized schools, business schools, School of Engineers, and School of Design in France. We have 5 design labs of research, and we are dealing with care design, social innovation, of course, and public policies, aging of population, and standards of living. We have a lab about city, and we deal about how we're going to live together in metropoles, and the interaction with campaigns and countrysides, and many other topics. We have a lab dedicated to digital, to food, and one to media design. 110 partner schools worldwide for student mobility. All our students are obliged to spend at least 1 semester abroad, and we have many partners all over the world. And we have an international programs fully taught in English to welcome some people coming abroad, of course. And we just had the label Bienvenue en France, maximum score of 3 stars, attesting the institution commitment and quality in welcoming international students. To live in Nantes is quite easy for the students coming from all over the world. So as I told you, we have studios. So we send our students for master's program in China for 2 years, and in India, in Brazil, and in Montreal. And we have created a school 2 years ago in Africa to consider that the huge development, and in particular in digital, the huge development of Africa. And we do think that Africa will be probably the continent of the 21st century. And so we want to work with Africa, of course, but we work all over the world, of course. And so we have problem at the moment with those studios because of COVID, but just Brazil reopened recently, so we are full of hopes for the reopening of our studios in China, India, and Montreal very, very soon. Brazil, and we have a partnership with Mackenzie University in China. We have a partnership with the Fine Arts College of Shanghai University in India, with the MIT, and in Montreal with Center of Incubation called Syntech. So this is the shapes of the programs. So as you can see, we have Bachelor of Design in Motion, UI, UX design, game experience, interior architecture, scenography, graphic, industrial design, and transport design. And we have all the programs with the DENMAT, Diplôme National des Métiers d'Art, the new diploma, the new bachelor in France, fully accredited by the Ministry of Higher Education. And those programs can welcome some international students. We have space design, graphic design, and product design. And of course, we have some master's program in digital, media, care, city, and food. Those programs are structures on ecosystem. We are dealing with the researchers and especially with the University of Nantes or other schools of engineer, for example, and with the economical areas. The thing is to create ecosystem between research and economy and society. And we are dealing in many partners and many economical partners, of course. All the academical programs are dealt on the relationship we may have with the economical partners. We have masters in international design strategy and design and strategy of innovation, and we do that with business schools. And we will have new buildings in 2022 and 11,000 meters square in the center of the town. L'École de Design has become a political project and in the west of France. And it's a huge investment and for our school. That proves that this school is successful, and we have been succeeding to gather the region, the metropole, and the Chamber of Commerce, the university, and all the politics around the table to finance this building, which will be which the purpose is that this building will enlighten the world, of course, by the quality of the students. So this is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome back. So now we have some questions from the audience, and now this is a Q&A session. So the first question is, what are the strengths of design education in Hong Kong? I believe this is a question to Professor Lo Hong.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for this question. I think there are obviously multiple strengths of design education in Hong Kong, and just, I mean, I hope that I answered some of them already, is based on the location. Hong Kong is obviously a global and challenging city, as the world discovered also more recently, and basically where this very dense urban living is pushed to an extreme. And I believe that as the world is getting more and more populated, we need to find more and more solutions about dense urban living. How do we live together? How do we provide food? How do we produce this food? How do we consume this food? How do we entertain? How do we transport ourselves when we have a very, very large group of population? And I think all those issues, including living, question of mobility, question of housing, question of relation to the context, and so on, all those questions are design questions. There is no doubt that designer cannot be involved in those questions, and they need to find alternatives. They need to challenge what is already at place, including, for example, the challenges of dense living in the case of pandemia. I think that this is a question that designers are facing, and Hong Kong is basically a place where there is an extremely dense exploration or possibility of exploration for that. Mm-hmm. We at the program try to address not all those issues, but some of them that we have more expertise in, and that will be the strengths of the School of Design.
Great, thank you, Lo Hong. We also have a question for the French speakers. Do French schools provide students housing, or do you have a dormitory on campus, for example?
I mean, to answer, we have a partnership with the university in Nantes, so there are some dormitories and there is no problems for the students, and we have them to find apartments, and I mean, it's easy in Nantes to find, and the relationship we have with the university eases all that, so there is no problem. We have a quota of room and apartments dedicated to international students.
Yeah, very much the same down in Nice for us.
Okay, great. Thank you. So now we have a question. It's a bit, based on the topic we have discussed before. It says, in relation to the future, human life and their needs, what design students should understand more, like physical needs, for example, like physical products or urban design, or spiritual needs, such as cultural, religious, or senses. So what do you think? Grant?
Yeah, sure. It's a very, very good question. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's to do with maturity, or it's perhaps as Christian was saying, society is changing and moving, and designers are always on the edge. We're always trying to bring forth the future that is just out of reach and to bring it to the present. So we tend to be the group of people that are pushing right at that edge. And I talk a little bit about the zeitgeist of society to try and explain design's role through the ages. It helps people to give a grounding. The designers were developing industrial products when the Industrial Revolution came along. That was the role of designers. And then as we move to ideas of need to have beautiful things, less industrial, we then go into the age of streamlining and modernism, and designers were there. We were there as a group, bringing that newness into society. And it's been the same all the way through. It's been the same as we've made the transition to service, to experience, the nature of developing systems thinking, and then now we're up to ecological thinking, and designers are always there. And I think if you bring the question back down to a personal level, in other words, the individual level, sorry, I think it's going to be about well-being. Okay, it's going to be about well-being, but with a very profound understanding that it's no longer about the things that we own. As I mentioned, it's about the experiences and the interactions. I think in some ways these things are, you can't throw everything out to come to just one particular point about what it is that humans are looking for and what designers need to address. I think everybody's moving through their own life in a very at different levels themselves. Society is complex. There's so many different cross sections of people, so many different cases of people needing something. It can be at the most basic level of food and shelter. But design is addressing, refugee movements. The conversations is such an accessible, essential level. But then you go through to, does that mean that the so-called first world problems are insignificant? I disagree, no, because the nature of the human condition means we're always faced with something. Existential ants, basically, the designers can address what we're looking for and what we potentially need at all levels. So I'm sorry, I can't give a clear answer. I think it is a great question, in essence, a great question. I think where we go next is well-being, but a collective well-being. I think it really will move to a more collective style. In fact, in many ways, I think COVID's accelerated this a little bit. maybe it's wishful thinking, but I get a sense that people are slightly more human, considerate, fragile, vulnerable. They are less egotistical, and you know, it might just be a small step, but I would suggest that that's what the confinement and what COVID has brought to us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Grant. As a Christian mentioned before in his talk, yes, Christian.
Yeah, I have another answer which completes the former one. We need to teach to our students that they are going to occupy some top strategic position in companies and top strategic position in the society. This is really a lack of our education, you know, and there is no real perspective in terms of this topic. Let me, I mean, I don't understand why the marketing director of L'Oréal, which is very innovative company, is not a designer, for example. And nobody thinks it could be a designer. It may be an engineer. I mean, it causes no problem to anybody if it is an engineer. But there is no designers, not enough designers who occupy top strategic position. So in a way, we say that designers become strategic and design has a role in the society to come, and not enough designer to occupy those positions. And we need to prepare them to occupy those positions. We need to give them some projection. This is your future. This is your responsibility to occupy those positions. The same thing within the society. In France, and when you go to the parliament, no politics are designer. You have, as member of parliaments, you have some vets, doctor of medicine, engineers. I mean, every profession is represented except designer. So we say that the designers has a political responsibility, and there is no politics at all as designer, because we have not educated our designers to occupy the top strategic position or to occupy any political position. And this is a great issue. And really, I do feel that in all institutions of education of design in the world, nobody talks about that. If you enter a company at 25, you enter in Decathlon, for example, at 25 years old, and you draw some saddles of bicycles, you are not going to draw saddles of bicycle during your whole life. What you're going to do at 35 years old, what you're going to do at 35 years old. And it's really a great issue. We need to teach our students that they will occupy different position in their life, and because design has become strategic, we need to teach them that they will occupy top strategic position.
Yeah, absolutely, Christian.
Sorry,
I think this
I was just going to add, a great subject. Sorry, I think Christian, I think you know, the big movement to present the value of design is start. You know, for a few years now, we've been pushing to say, you know, what is the design index compared to the S&P 500 index, and then to do the research to actually work out what is actually taking place within those companies, things like organizational change, organizational behavior, to show that design's influence. The problem is the creative conversation. It's always about this idea that the creativity is unmanageable. But yeah, I fully agree with you.
Yep, I totally agree. I think it's it's going to be a long discussion, you know, to talk about what is the actual role of designers in the society, and what will be the contribution they should make, and will be the skill set we should prepare them to achieve their goals. So I'm sorry for the time, and we'll have to move on to the next session. So before we go, can we have a couple of comments from Lo Hong in terms of the view from Hong Kong?
No, I think that the question that was extremely interesting, and it's an ontological question. I mean, basically, it's about the question include the answer, because what about human life, and what is the role of the designer in human life to improve needs? And I personally think that the question is contained. The answer is contained within the question: is what is life? And the designer has to answer this question in some ways, and there are multiple ways to answer it. Obviously, I mean, from a biological perspective, maybe less, but from an ecological perspective, from a sociological perspective, or from a cognitive perspective, this is the 4 domains of life in which the designers has a tremendous role to play. And I think this is something that we do bring to our students, at least in the design strategy or in the urban environments design. So the question is really, really important, and I think needs to be addressed.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So this will be the end of this session. Through this session, you can see all of these design schools in France and also in Hong Kong. We have been trying to tackle on these challenges and try to think deep about how can we shape the future of designers' role and the positions, and how can design contribute more to the social innovation. So if you are interested in this school, please contact us, and we will help you to apply for the schools. Okay, so thank you so much, and I'll see you again next year. Yeah, thank you.